Have you ever fallen in love with flowers? I do every day. Whenever I take a walk in my campus, I just fall in love with every floral that I watch. This whole video is going to walk you through step-wise process of how you can paint a lily. It's a very simple and easy process. Just follow along with me and understand all the steps which we are taking. You need to only have 100% cotton paper. Hi guys, I am Ritika Nath, an artist, instructor, mother, brand owner of Vibrant Parcels, where we manufacture these kind of pouches, then our handmade sketchbooks, paints, brush roll, and much more. You can purchase any of it from our website www.vibrantparcels.com. For customized order, do reach out to me directly on Instagram by the name Vibrant Parcels. I usually have a three-step approach for all my watercolor floral paintings. The first part is where I address the floral, the second part is where I address the greens, and the last part is where I address my backgrounds. Many of you might think, why the floral first? Now, I come with a fresh mind and full energy when I have to start my florals. And as it progresses, I think our energy levels and some sort of saturation also comes with our painting with the progress that we make. Hence, it is very important to work on the florals first. I'm going ahead with a background wash of brilliant pink. You can see that I did not occupy the complete petal. We will not be working on the adjacent petal. We will work on individual petals one after another. Some of the places I would be creating in darker values and some of the places I would be creating in lighter values. The darker values are majorly to show the contrast, and this is usually in the spaces from where our petal is originating or the spaces where my petal is ending. We will work on another petal just in the similar way we did for our first petal. The process might sound pretty repetitive for you, but it is something that helps you to develop a lot of your muscle memory. It also helps you to understand your brush strokes, your brushes, and how much comfortable you are with your brushes. Always go ahead with smaller brushes in case you are starting out with watercolors for even your florals. And if you are more of an intermediate or an advanced level artist, you can go ahead with any brush of your choice as you know how to control the water, you know how your brush works on your paper, and there are a lot more experiences which you already had with that particular brush. Last but not the least, each of these florals has a few lines which I have added with my thinnest brush that usually shows the movement of the petal or how exactly that petal is placed. If it is placed downwards, then I will make a downward kind of a movement. And while I go towards the tip, you will see it would become broader. While I go towards the top, the middle area will become again broader and end it on a smaller point or end it on a point while it is towards the top part of the petal. That's how we continue to work on the movements as well as we can show how each and every petal is positioned in this painting. Working on our greens is basically your step two, where we will go ahead and work on one single layer of green and then go ahead to create the different kind of depth, contrast, lighter, darker values, etc. into this part of the painting. I'm going ahead with my yellow green to apply the first layer. You can go ahead with any light green that is available for you and apply it on all the greener parts of this floral. Green parts also include the bud, which are mostly in green, and then you can go ahead and apply some amount of pinks or green depending on more of the area is covered in pink or the more of the area is covered in green. That's how I look forward to each of the spaces which I want to cover. Now, these are the most important spaces in our painting. The whole focus of the painting is laid on the foundation of the floral, and the second part is majorly the greens. Even if you miss out the background, it's absolutely okay. In case you attempt the background, it's mostly for the reason that it would help you to make it more dreamy and beautiful. It is majorly an add on rather than being an essential, whereas the floral as well as the green is quite an essential. The first and the foremost essential part being the floral or the petals which we have made, and furthermore is the green that I am adding now. Many of these greens or the leaves you can see are twisted. We will work on the darker as well as the lighter values where it is more to do with the shadows as well as the light. Shadow and light has a great impact on your painting, whether it be any kind of floral, whether it be urban landscape or any kind of seascape, boats, etc. There is a lot of play that you can do even in your skyscape when it is about light and shadows. Each and every technique that we learn in watercolor, whether it be creating the darker and lighter values, adding the shadows, can be applied across various subjects. That's one of the reasons it is very important to continue to focus on each and every smaller details in watercolors. Watercolors has a majority of the part which is focused on the subject, and as you progress in and around the subject or out of focus from the subject, you can add lesser details as well as it can be more loose as well as out of focus. I continue to paint really slow at this stage. I do not want to commit any mistakes, though there can be a lot of cover up which we can do even in our backgrounds as we are going ahead and painting the backgrounds. Though many of you may also want to leave it at only one stage, which is majorly working on the floral and then leaving it. Time to work on my layer 2 of greens, where you can see that I am adding the darker values towards the bottom area of this particular leaf, and then I will pull my paints. Pulling my paints is a technique where I will blend my colors and take it towards the top area or towards the area which are less pigmented. This way you can displace some of the pigments from the places which are more darker to the areas that are more lighter in value. This not only helps you to balance out your composition but also plays a key role when it is all about the shadows that we are creating. You can see that the backside of this leaf, which is attached to the stem, is way more darker, and that way I can show the movement of the leaf which is falling towards the bottom area. Movement of the leaf is something that is very, very important, and you have to show it with a few lines exactly the way we worked on our petal. When you look at the stem of the lily, you will see the areas which are more in shadow will be darker in values compared to the areas that receive more light. This decision is quite dependent on how you want to work around the shadows and the light. But when a leaf falls or when a leaf covers a particular area of the stem, it would be in the shadow region. And when you look through your eyes, that would be way more darker than the other spaces which you want to add to your painting or to other spaces that are existing on your stem. There are many values that can be achieved with one single color, and you can also see me working only with the darker value of green to create the darker values in few of the areas which are more pigmented, and my brush is loaded with more pigments and less of water, whereas as I continue to occupy the bigger spaces or the bigger parts of the leaf, you will observe that I do dilute the colors or have less pigments on my brush compared to when I added the darker values or I changed the values of the greens. This is quite a repetitive process which you have to apply to all your leaves and continue to work on other spaces, you have to understand the areas that are in shadows and the areas which are more lit up, and accordingly add the colors, which is going to help you to have a final painting that has a lot of play on light and shadow. It's time to work on our bud area now. This is not difficult. It's again the greens that we are going to add over here. I'm going to just add a few lines and create the darker and the lighter values. As I progress towards the stem, I will just blend the colors to pull my paints, and then I am kind of done. I will go ahead and work on my next bud and create the shadows or the light play which we have done till now in all the other leafy areas of this floral painting. Always keep two brushes by your side, one for adding the colors and another for blending it. You can also have one single brush, but there is a lot of to and fro which you need to do. Wash that brush, get it cleaned on the tissue, and then again use some of the clear water to dampen it more and pull the paints. Yeah, so it's 2 to 3 steps where you continue to work with the same brush, and there is only one single step when you are actually working with two different brushes. If you're not comfortable working with two different brushes, then always go ahead and it's a welcome to work with one single brush. But be sure that you remove the extra pigments from your brush before you pick up the clean water. I always have two jars of water by my side, as I have shown you in many of my audio videos, one for fresh supply and another for washing my brushes. That's how I continue to control all my pigments in terms of adding the clear water or taking off the extra pigments from my brushes. We are almost done with our greens except a few final touches that I would go ahead and add to the greener parts, and then we will start with our backgrounds. Many of you always go ahead and ask me how I paint my backgrounds. The backgrounds is something that is very important as you progress as an artist. And today we are going to go ahead and use the same colors that we have used for our floral painting, as well as the greens for our background. Though there are many alternatives of using your color theory, like using the analogous color or complementary color or any of the other color set that you want to use for your backgrounds, but for this painting, we are going to keep it more simple and going ahead with some of the darker values of purple as it is closer to the pinks, and I will also use a bit of blue as it is closer to the greens that we have used in our painting. Those are the only extra shades and colors which I continue to work on for my backgrounds. At this stage, most of the difficult work is already done. What you have to work on is to add the darker values in few of the spaces in and around the petal and lighter values as you go away from the petal. Though there are areas where I might be even adding a bit of lighter or darker values or alternating a bit with the values, which would be a play that we continue to work on in many of our floral paintings. There is a no set rule that I have for my background. Sometimes I go ahead with more of the white spaces in my background and less of these darker values. And in few of the paintings, I go with more of these darker spaces and maybe hardly any of the white spaces that I add into the background. This is all about mood as well as play that I want to do with my colors. It is how any watercolor artist thinks and works around. That brings me to the point, watercolor mindset. Watercolor mindset is very important, and it is one of the most important stress topics in all my paintings that you will observe. Watercolor mindset is something that is top priority for all the artists or for all the watercolor enthusiasts. Not to let your energy down, keeping your energy at the same level from the start to the end of the painting. This is something that I have learned. A painting which you might observe from an instructor may take around just 1 hour for you, and the instructor has explained it in 2 hours. Whereas there are cases where the instructor just take 15 minutes to actually create a painting, and we might take 1 to 3 hours to create the same painting. Here comes a major play. If you go with a positive mindset, your painting will also take lesser amount of time and you would be really happy to finish it off on a very positive note. Whereas if we are not sure, okay, whether we can do it or whether we cannot do it, okay, how do I plan to do it? I don't know how each of these steps would be executed. If there is a lot of how, why, etc., then you might have a painting that is not exactly how you would have liked it, or the final outcome is not exactly as the instructor has made it. This is something that you would continue to learn in your journey, and I still do continue to learn in my journey. I will add some more of the darker spaces in this painting. As you can observe over here, blend it with some blue, and we are almost done with this painting. I would let the painting dry off before we remove the tape at an angle. This is a very, very important aspect of a watercolor painting. In case you do not allow the paper to dry off, you may rip off your sketchbook or you may rip off the paper on top of which you are painting. But there are a few spaces which is currently masked out in the middle of the floral. I will go ahead and take off that masking fluid and start with the greener parts. This is very critical and crucial at this moment. We do not want to go ahead and just not be happy with this particular part. Go with as much as lighter values as possible. Working on the bigger spaces, you can actually play a bit with your light and shadows. On the smaller spaces, I am just applying a very light shade of my green and even allowing some white to stay as is. The pollens will become more of in the darker values. You can use the same purple that we have used for our backgrounds and create the pollens. I will go ahead and use some of my purple and blue mix. I guess this is what is the best for us. You can also go ahead with dark brown shade, that also works well for these pollen areas. Some of the spaces I would leave in the whites of the paper or the pinks of the paper. Finally, I hope you have enjoyed painting this lily along with me. If you did, give this painting and video a thumbs up so that it can reach out to more people. Leave me a comment. I usually reply to all my comments. In case you want to paint more of these florals, do watch out my videos on Skillshare or on my website www.vibrantparcels.com. You can also watch out my earlier videos on roses for similar painting. I will meet you again next week with a new video. Till then, stay safe, healthy, and happy painting to all of you guys.